Well, very good morning and welcome to Breakfast News. In the next 1 hour, we'll get you all the latest news and updates. Different correspondents will also be joining us. We have different segments also from national to across the globe to sports. And we are just getting the news, Preeti, that India, they have beaten Spain and a great comeback by India. They had lost to Australia in the previous match 7-1. And before that, they had beaten New Zealand 3-2. But a great comeback by the Indian team. In men's hockey we are talking about, but disappointment in shooting continues. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. With me is my colleague Preeti.
Yes, thank you Abhishek, and good morning to all of you as well. A good note we're beginning this day with. Yes, the Indian hockey team has progressed further. We'll talk about that as well, and also we'll get to everything that's making it to the headlines this morning. National updates, international updates. We'll get you details of Antony Blinken's visit to India, and also we'll get you how Maharashtra floods have been wreaking havoc. Added to that, all the action from the parliament yesterday, what is to be expected today. Added to that, what the day holds for in Tokyo Olympics ahead, and also we'll get you more on other international updates, COVID updates as well. Lots to keep you engaged for the next 1 hour. First, we get you the top stories.
Absolutely, and also Preeti, a lot of developments are taking place in Karnataka also.
Yes.
What lies ahead now for both Yediyurappa and Karnataka, this will be very, very important. We'll be talking to our correspondents also on the latest development on this COVID situation in different states also. We'll talk about that. And the death toll in Maharashtra also has risen to 192, while 25 people are still reported to be missing in the flood affected areas. We'll be speaking to our reporter also on this. We'll be taking updates and more on this in the next 1 hour.
Added to that, also when we talk of the top stories, we're talking of the havoc that has been wreaked by the floods and rains in Maharashtra, but at the same time in Delhi NCR, Delhiites and they woke up to a pleasant morning.
Some respite.
Yes, some respite from the sultry weather conditions in the national capital, and parts of the national capital NCR are witnessing heavy downpour since morning. Added to that, we'll also get you updates on how Mirabai Chanu was felicitated on her return back to India after winning that most important silver medal at the Olympics.
Yeah, all of that. First up, the headlines.
Yes.
Death toll in Maharashtra rises to 192 in the flood-affected areas of Ratnagiri, Satara, Thane, Sindhudurg, Kolhapur and Pune. Over 3.75 lakh evacuated. Rescue operations at landslide-hit Taliya village in Mahad officially ends. 31 still missing.
Amidst raging protests by opposition parties, Lok Sabha passes 2 key bills factoring Regulation Amendment Bill 2020 and the National Institutes of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management Bill 2021. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill 2021 also introduced.
Union Home Minister Amit Shah speaks to Chief Ministers of Assam and Mizoram over tense border situation. Emphasizes on resolution through talks. Assam CM Himanta Biswa Sarma assures Mizoram CM Zoramthanga that Assam will maintain status quo and peace at the interstate border.
US President Joe Biden and Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi in a joint statement announced an agreement to formally end the US combat mission in Iraq by end of 2021.
Our nation gives a rousing welcome to Olympic silver medalist weightlifter Mirabai Chanu, Union Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports Anurag Thakur, along with other Union Ministers for the states, Mirabai Chanu in New Delhi.
All right, those are the top stories. Up next, we get to the news in detail. We begin with the national headlines first. Death toll in Maharashtra has risen to 192, while 25 people are still reported to be missing in the flood-affected areas of Ratnagiri, Satara, Thane, Sindhudurg, Kolhapur and Pune. 3,75,175 people have been evacuated from 1,028 villages that are affected. Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray has instructed the administration to restore electricity and water supply in flood-hit areas at the earliest, as the state slowly emerges out of the large-scale devastation caused by heavy rains and deluge. Thackeray said that cleanliness and hygiene should be maintained at the affected areas to ensure that there is no spread of diseases. Meanwhile, rescue operation at landslide-hit Talia village in Maharashtra has officially ended. So far, 53 people have been declared dead and 31 are missing. So these are the visuals we're getting for you from Maharashtra, wherein relief and rescue operations are in full swing after floods and rainfall wreaked havoc in different areas in Maharashtra. When we talk of these areas, Ratnagiri, Satara, Thane, Sindhudurg, Kolhapur and Pune are the worst affected areas in Maharashtra by incessant rainfall and floods. More than 3,75,000 people have been evacuated from more than 1,000 villages.
Absolutely, and Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray also has instructed the administration to restore the electricity and water supply in the flood-hit areas at the earliest, as the state slowly emerges out of the large-scale devastation caused by heavy rains and deluge. He also said that cleanliness and hygiene should be maintained in the affected areas to ensure that there was no spread of diseases.
Talia village in Mahar, the rescue operation was progressing there and it has now officially ended. 53 people have been declared dead and 31 are missing.
Right, so these are the visuals that we are showing you. Flood fury continues and rescue operations are on. But yeah, Shishir is joining us live to give us more information on this. Shishir, take us through the ground situation there. Flood fury continues and rescue operations are on.
Well, absolutely. Death tolls are concerned. Sheikh, 92 deaths so far have been reported. Flood here, nearly 25 people are missing here. More than 1,000 villages bearing Maharashtra. Currently, if you look at the situation, the western part of Maharashtra, the western Maharashtra is facing the brunt of the flood situation, especially the Sangli district and the Kolhapur district. Although the water has started receding from Sangli district and the water level has come to almost 50 feet in Varna river. That's the most important river in Sangli, which has created havoc in the area. Few teams of NDR are still working in Kolhapur and Sangli. As far as the Konkan region is concerned, Abhishek, the rescue operation has called off in Konkan, especially in Talia village. And we have seen the maximum death toll came from Talia village. Now the SDRF and the NDRF have already ended this operation, have already submitted the report to the state government. The most important thing right now is the cleaning and sanitation work, because as we have seen here in the Chiplin district in Konkan region, the flood have started from this particular region, and later on we have seen here that nearly 20 feet in the city have submerged all the shops and the houses also. The most important task in front of the government is the cleaning and sanitation work. And that's the reason special teams have been deployed here, not just the Konkan region, but the teams from the other municipal corporation. For example, the Thane Municipal Corporation and the Mumbai Municipal Corporation have special teams for the cleaning and sanitation work to the Chiplun region also and the Konkan region as well. As far as the Western Maharashtra region is concerned, the water has started receding but has not completely subsided here. That's the reason still NDRF is rescuing people who are stranded and stuck at various places. Nearly 259 camps have been, particularly in these two regions here, and the maximum evacuation of people were witnessed from Sangli and Kolhapur. The total number of evacuees is almost around 350,000 numbers that we have seen. That's what the NDRF and SDRF stated so far. But the maximum evacuation took place in Kolhapur and Sangli region. As I'm talking to you, the rains have stopped here completely and the water level started decreasing, and that's the reason we can see quite a ramp up operations of special JRF. The two important national highways which were closed for last 4 to 5 days, the Mumbai has now operation, but as far as
all right, I think there's a disruption in the audio there. We'll try getting back to Shishir again to get us more on the current situation in Maharashtra. He tells us that as of now, the rains have stopped and the rescue operation are still going on, and the water has receded. We'll keep you updated. Let's talk of the action in Parliament now.
Absolutely. Shifting focus now, like Preeti said, action in Parliament now. In Rajya Sabha, discussion on the Marine Aids to Navigation Bill 2021 will be taken forward for passing. The bill was introduced by Sarbanand Sonowal on July 19th. Also, Women and Child Development Minister Smriti Irani will move the bill to amend the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015 as passed by Lok Sabha for consideration and passing. In Lok Sabha, Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will move the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill 2021 for consideration and passing. Besides, discussion and voting will also take place on the supplementary demands for grants, first batch for 2021-2022, and on the demands for excess grants for 2017-18. Also, Sitharaman will introduce the appropriation bills for consideration and passing.
Meanwhile, both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha witnessed continuous uproar by opposition yesterday. The proceedings were disrupted and the House was adjourned multiple times. Even when protests crippled the fifth day of business, the lower house, however, successfully passed two key bills in the second half of the day's proceedings. More in this report.
Both houses of parliament continue to witness uproarious scenes as opposition members created pandemonium on various issues. The proceedings were disrupted many times. In the lower house, the chair made every effort to run the question hour amid noisy scenes. Few questions were also answered by the concerned ministers, but the continuous uproar didn't allow the question hour to be completed.
We have made sure that the standard as per Rule 45-day be not crossed and all dues be paid from the government side for the MSMEs.
It is the GST Council which will determine whether petrol and diesel will be covered by the GST. So this is a recommendation which has to come from the GST Council.
After 2 p.m., the proceedings began again in the lower house amid the din. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill 2021 was also introduced in the House. As the protest continued, the House passed two key bills, the Factoring Regulation Amendment Bill 2020 and the National Institutes of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management Bill 2021.
This is a very important bill which is passed with amendments as suggested by the Standing Committee. MSMEs will be benefited, and because MSMEs will be benefited, I appeal to the whole House to consider and pass this amendment, 3 amendments and 1 insertion.
Similar scenes prevailed in the upper house. Opposition members stuck to their demand for a discussion on Pegasus spyware issue and on farmers' protests under Rule 267. Another day's entire listed work was lost in the din. Parliament Desk, DD India.
And moving further, US Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken will arrive in New Delhi today on a 2-day visit. This is Secretary Blinken's first visit to India after assuming charge as US Secretary of State. Tomorrow, he will meet the External Affairs Minister and the National Security Advisor. Secretary Blinken's visit is an opportunity to continue the high-level bilateral dialogue and bolster the India-US global strategic partnership. Both sides will review the robust and multifaceted India-US bilateral relations and potential for consolidating them further. Discussions will focus on regional and global issues of mutual interest, including recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, the Indo-Pacific region, Afghanistan, and cooperation in the UN. Right, our colleague Amritpal is joining us to give us more information on this. Amritpal, US Secretary of State will begin his 2-day visit to India, first visit to India of Secretary Antony Blinken. And what will be the top agenda during the visit?
Abhishek, could you ask your question again, please?
I was asking that this is the first visit of US Secretary of State Antony Blinken to India. So what will be the agenda? The situation in Afghanistan and also the coordinated COVID-19 response, you think will be the key issues in the agenda?
That's right. The issues range from bilateral ties between the two countries and including, Afghanistan, the situation in the region. The two sides will take stock of where the defense partnership today stands. It will be a comprehensive meeting between External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, the US Secretary of State, who will be arriving here this evening, will also be meeting with the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, and and calling on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Basically the conversation would be addressing bilateral, regional, and global issues. COVID and the global developments, which, as I said, includes Afghanistan, includes Quad, cooperation in Quad, COVID cooperation in Quad, also the evolving situation in Afghanistan, the concerns that India has, and India would press upon the US Secretary to bear upon Pakistan to stop the role that it plays in Afghanistan, which is not only anti-Afghanistan, but also has a bearing on the terror financing and terror havens which exist in Afghanistan and have a bearing upon the security situation in Afghanistan. When it comes to the bilateral part, they will be discussing, opening up of travel, the gradual resumption of international travel while maintaining health protocols, especially easing the mobility of students, professionals, business travelers, humanitarian cases, etc. So, the critical need for medicines and healthcare equipment is likely to come up. Also, the two sides would be looking at, consolidating the bilateral cooperation across a vast agenda of issues like augmenting trade and investment, tapping opportunities in healthcare, education, the digital domain, innovation, and security. So these will be important parts of the development. Also, the two sides would cover in detail explore the possibility of exchanges, exercises, and defense transfers and technologies. As you know, this was discussed in a greater detail during the 2+2 ministerial dialogue, but the fourth 2+2 ministerial dialogue is due to be held in the United States this year. So the two sides could be laying the groundwork for that. Abhishek?
All right, Amrit, you've told us about the wide range of issues that will be taken up between both the sides. Also, when we talk of specifically Afghanistan, what is it that, both sides are looking at each other when we talk of Afghanistan? Can we say that, US would be seeking India's support in further stabilizing Afghanistan? And added to that, you also tell us that on the Indian side, the Indian side will put forth the concerns of resurgent Taliban in Afghanistan in the absence of US troops there.
That's right. The pulling out of the US troops, we know the kind of situation that has evolved in Afghanistan and how Taliban is gaining ground. India is consistently concerned about it. The whole world is concerned about it. Now how to arrest that and to look at a peaceful negotiation of Afghanistan. India has always maintained that the peace process in Afghanistan should be Afghan-owned and Afghan-led. So whatever the Afghans decide for themselves, but India has also been talking about a regional response to the situation, be it during his meeting with Sergei Lavrov or the Iranian leadership, or even during the Dushanbe and Tashkent meeting study that the External Affairs Minister held. Now, obviously, India will put forth its and how India looks at the security situation in Afghanistan in the wake of the withdrawal. But India would specifically press upon the need for a sustained pressure on Pakistan on terror financing and terror havens, which is, a part of the broader strategic agenda of Pakistan, and how that has implications not just for Afghanistan but for the whole region. So India would be strongly stressing on that point and bringing that up with Secretary Blinken, that because Pakistan is also their strategic partner, so they and an ally, what they call an ally on the global war on terror. Now, so India would be pushing for the United States stepping up the pressure on Pakistan. Preeti?
All right,
Absolutely.
Amrit, thank you so much for joining us with those inputs. That was our correspondent Amrit Pal Singh telling us more about what is to be expected when we talk of the agenda between US and India when the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken begins his visit from today onwards, 2-day visit to India.
Absolutely, he will meet Dr. S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister, and also Ajit Doval, National Security Advisor, tomorrow, and before traveling to Kuwait on his next leg of the tour. Well, shifting focus now, fresh tension erupted along the Mizoram-Assam state border yesterday, leaving 6 personnel of Assam police dead and many others injured. According to sources, Union Home Minister Amit Shah has spoken to chief ministers of both the states and asked them to control the situation. He also stressed on finding solution to the border dispute through talks. Earlier, Assam Chief Minister Himant Biswa Sarma spoke to his Mizoram counterpart and condoled the loss of lives. He reiterated that Assam will maintain status quo and peace between the borders of the states. Himant also expressed his willingness to visit as well and discuss these issues if needed.
The BJP has decided to send a team of observers to Bengaluru who will convene the Legislative Party meeting to elect the next Chief Minister. Until then, B.S. Yediyurappa will continue to serve as caretaker Chief Minister of Karnataka. Yediyurappa resigned from the top post yesterday and he made the announcement to resign at Sadhana Samvesha, which was organized to mark the completion of 2 years of his government. Making an emotional speech there, Yediyurappa said that he will work to strengthen the party in the state and make every effort to bring it to power when the assembly election is announced in the state in 2023. Yediyurappa also thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi and party's other senior leaders for allowing him to serve people for 2 years. He said that he will extend all support to his successor in the state. And to get us more on that, our correspondent Aisha Khanam is joining us. Aisha, a change of guard there in Karnataka. You tell us more about what the day holds. We tell our viewers that BJP has decided to send a team of observers to Bengaluru to decide on the next successor of Yediyurappa.
Yes, absolutely, Preeti. The BJP is expecting to look at a smooth transition of power in Karnataka after the exit of B.S. Yediyurappa. And now there are meetings going on from yesterday to decide a final candidate from the list of over 6 to 7 faces, the names which are emerging as strong contenders for the Chief Minister's post. And among these, the Union Minister Prahlad Joshi's name is in the forefront. Then there are other leaders like Ashwath Narayana, who is the Deputy Chief Minister. There are some more names that are doing rounds. But the BJP Legislative Party will decide. There will be a meeting by the BJP Legislative Party soon in Bangalore, because that is the procedure. That is where the final name will be decided. And this name will be formally taken forward, and the governor will call
मेरे को ये कॉपी सुना तेरा WhatsApp में बता
is hoping that it will be a smooth transition, and today it is very likely that the observers from Delhi will reach Bangalore, and they will sit with the BJP leaders in the state and go through the list of these names, because it is very challenging for the BJP to bring together a perfect synchronization between the caste balance and the regional balance that normally in Karnataka, which the politics is driven by. So the BJP will have to look into all the aspects, all these angles, and they will finally endorse one name which all the legislatures in Karnataka will agree to. And another name that we heard is Murugesh Nirani, who is a minister, and one more name is the Home Minister Basuraj Bommai. So these are the people who are prominent faces, who are the prominent leaders, and also they belong to the same community which B.S. Yediyurappa belongs to. As the political experts say in Karnataka, that the Lingayats are the dominant community in Karnataka and who play a very decisive role in forming the governments in the state, and that has been the history in the state, and it's a fact. So therefore, the BJP could also examine the facts that since B.S. Yediyurappa has now resigned, it could be possible, more possibilities, since there are demands from across the state. Many seers, many Swamijis are demanding that a person from the same community be given the role of a chief minister in the state. So BJP will have to examine all this since it's a very delicate matter with regard to the caste and community balance and equations, and then a final decision will emerge only at the BJP legislative party meeting.
Right, central observers, like you said, Aisha, will reach Bengaluru today, and it will be interesting to know who the successor will be of B.S. Yediyurappa. But again, coming back to Yediyurappa, again, he almost choked while speaking yesterday, and also said that he has gone through several Agni Parikshas. But like you said, former procedures will be adopted. But again, what led to Yediyurappa's resignation? What has been happening through the course of these 2 years? I mean, he went through his 4th term. If you can give us an elaborated answer, what led to his resignation?
Well, Abhishek, there were talks of his resignation from past 2 months, and there was some kind of discontent brewing in the party, because some of the legislators were upset with the fact that Yediyurappa is giving more prominence to his community, and also his family interference irked many people, many of the MLAs. So they took the complaints to the High Command, and they said that the interference by his son Vijendra was not acceptable to the legislatures. And remember, his son is also the Vice President in BJP, and his other son is a member of Parliament, Raghavendra. But also one more fact is that the opposition took advantage of this situation where disgruntled elements within the party were upset with Yediyurappa's style of functioning and autocratic approach. And the opposition took advantage of this entire situation and started bringing out the corruption cases of B.S. Yediyurappa. There are several corruption cases he is facing, whereas in some cases he has been convicted by the court. But the Congress was taking this opportunity, and the BJP thought that the opposition is trying to tarnish and malign the image of the government. Therefore, the party was of an opinion that there should be a change in leadership. And another important aspect is that in BJP, after 75 years, there is no place to hold the post as a rule. But the BJP allowed Yediyurappa to continue for 2 years, and remember, he is 78 now. So
yes,
age is the one factor, and therefore Yediyurappa was given an option to join the Margdarshak Mandal and lead the party and strengthen the party in the state. And that is the first and foremost reason that Yediyurappa had to consider before him, and then he took this difficult decision for him, which he was very emotional. He almost choked and broke down when he was announcing his resignation at the completion of his 2 years at the special function organized by the state government yesterday in Vidhan Sabha Banquet Hall.
All right, Aisha, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for joining in with those inputs. We'll come back to you again during the day to get more on how the events unfold in Karnataka when we talk of the BJP legislature party there meeting to elect or to rather choose the next successor of B.S. Yediyurappa in the state.
Right, and until then he'll continue to be the caretaker chief minister. Moving on to our next story now, we'll talk about COVID situation. India has attained several peaks in its COVID vaccination journey. The cumulative COVID vaccination coverage has achieved the landmark milestone of 44 crore so far. Maharashtra became the first state to vaccinate more than 1 crore people with both doses of COVID-19 vaccines. Over 57.48 lakh vaccine doses were administered yesterday, and cumulatively over 15 crore vaccine doses have been administered in the age group of 18 to 44 years across 37 states and the union territories.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will depart for Tajikistan today for Shanghai Cooperation Organization's defence ministers meet. Tomorrow will be the main day of engagement, which will include a joint call on by SCO defence ministers with Tajikistan's President Emomali Rahmon. Tajikistan is the chair of the grouping, which has 8 member states: China, Russia, India, Pakistan and 4 sent. Earlier this month was attended by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar.
And the joint entrance examination advance 2021 for admission in IITs will be held on 3rd October this year. Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan said that exam will be conducted adhering to all COVID-related protocols. Earlier, in the light of heavy rains and landslides in Maharashtra, to assist the Maharashtra student community, the National Testing Agency has decided to grant another opportunity to all candidates who have examination centers in the cities of Kolhapur, Palghar, Ratnagiri, Raigad, Sindhudurg, Sangli and Satara, and who are not able to reach the examination center for JEE Mains 2021 Session 3. The students with examination centers in these cities who were or may not be in a position to reach their examination centers on 25th and 27th July 2021 for JEE Main exam need not panic. They will be given another opportunity, and the dates for the same will be announced soon by the NTA. So NTA is conducting JEE Mains 2021 Session 3 on 20th, 22nd, 25th and 27th July 2021 in 334 cities throughout India and abroad.
In relief to Delhiites from the sultry weather conditions, several parts of the national capital received incessant rainfall today morning. IMD had predicted thunderstorm with light to moderate rainfall in many parts of Delhi and Haryana and also Rajasthan. Last Monday, Delhi NCR witnessed heavy downpour. And even as we speak, we tell our viewers that though Delhiites woke up to pleasant weather conditions in the morning, but at some places waterlogging has been witnessed, which eventually would lead to traffic snarls during the day. Added to that, earlier in the bulletin, we also told you about how Maharashtra has been witnessing floods because of incessant rainfall in many parts. And also today, even as we speak, we tell you that Delhi NCR is witnessing heavy downpour since today morning.
Right, traffic diversion and traffic jams also. Like from national stories now, we'll move on to our next segment now, which is across the globe. US President Joe Biden and Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi on Monday sealed an agreement formally ending the US combat mission in Iraq by the end of 2021. The decision was taken after the US President held talks with Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi at the White House, coupled with Biden's withdrawal of the last American forces in Afghanistan by the end of August. The US President is completing US combat missions in the 2 wars that then President George W. Bush began under his watch. Addressing media, Biden said the US combat forces will leave Iraq by the end of the year, though troops will continue to train and advise the Iraqi military. Iraqi PM said he is looking forward to work with the US for the benefit of Iraq.
We support strengthening Iraq's democracy, and we're anxious to make sure the election goes forward in October. And we're also committed to our security cooperation. Our shared fight against ISIS is critical for the stability of the region, and our counterterrorism cooperation will continue even as we shift to this new phase we're going to be talking about.
Today, our relation is stronger than ever. Our partnership exists for economy, the environment, health, education, culture, and more. I'm looking forward to work with you, Mr. President, to bring our two countries more closer for benefit of Iraq and United States. God bless our two countries. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
We get an update from Tunisia now. Dismissed Tunisian Prime Minister Hichem Mechichi on Monday said that he will hand the responsibility to whomsoever the president chooses. He said in a statement that he is ready to serve Tunisia from any location. Tunisian President Kais Saied meanwhile said that his decisions were an implementation of the text of the constitution and not a coup attempt as described by his political rivals. In a video posted by the presidency, Saied added that his decisions came in line with Article number 30 in the constitution. He also called on Tunisians to remain calm and not to respond to any provocations, asking them to take to the streets, saying the most dangerous thing faced by countries and societies is internal explosion, internal fighting. Also in another development, the Tunisian president ordered a curfew on Monday to prohibit movement of people and vehicles from 7 p.m. until 6 a.m. starting Monday until August 27, with the exception of urgent health cases and night workers. The presidential order also banned gatherings of more than 3 people on public roads or in public squares during the day.
And the United States, meanwhile, expressed concern about developments in Tunisia and urged calm in the country. White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki, in a media briefing, said that the United States is in touch with senior Tunisian leaders.
We're concerned about the developments in Tunisia, which come as the Tunisian authorities are seeking to stabilize their economy, confront a resurgence in the COVID-19 pandemic, and improve living standards for all Tunisians. We are in touch at a senior level from both the White House and the State Department with Tunisian leaders to learn more about the situation, urge calm, and support Tunisian efforts to move forward in line with democratic principles.
Lebanon on Monday appointed Prime Minister-elect designate Najib Mikati, a billionaire and businessman, as the Prime Minister. Mikati received 72 votes out of a total of 118 members of parliament on Monday to be designated as the next Prime Minister. The newly appointed leader appealed for unity in the country to begin recovery from the ravaging impacts of COVID and also the economic and financial meltdown that has battered the country. He was also tasked with forming a new government to deal with immediate issues and ending a year-long political impasse. Mikati has been Prime Minister twice before. He was last in power in the year 2014.
An update now on Cuba crisis. Thousands of Cuban Americans descended on the White House on Monday to call on President Joe Biden to do more for Cuba, saying the sanctions he imposed last week are not enough after the communist government's recent crackdown on protesters. The crowd repeatedly called for Biden to intervene in Cuba on humanitarian grounds and called on the international community to condemn the human rights abuses and support democracy. Last week, the United States imposed sanctions on a Cuban security minister and an Interior Ministry Special Forces unit for alleged human rights abuses during a crackdown on anti-government protests earlier this month against an economic crisis, the government's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, and recent curbs on civil rights.
And now we take a look at the COVID-19 numbers from across the world. When we talk of the figures, more than 19 crore 53 lakh people worldwide have been tested positive, while over 17 crore 70 lakh people have recovered from the virus. More than 41.82 lakh people have died globally. The United States continues to be the worst affected country by COVID-19. More than 3.52 crore people have been infected by the virus in the US, while over 6.26 lakh people have died in the country.
The United States will not lift any of the existing travel restrictions at this moment due to concerns over the Delta variant of COVID-19 and the rising number of the COVID cases. The decision was announced after a senior-level White House meeting on Friday. The United States currently bars most non-US citizens who within the last 14 days have been in the United Kingdom, the 26 Schengen nations in Europe without internal border controls, or in Ireland, China, India, South Africa, Iran and Brazil. The US travel restrictions were first imposed on China in January last year to address the spread of COVID-19. Other countries have since been added.
Spain has been seeing continuous rise in the new COVID cases. People in the country's biggest island, Tenerife, are required to present their COVID certificates, including vaccine passport, a negative test or a proof at the restaurants and gyms to enter. Passport will not be required for those who opt to sit outdoors. The measure caused confusion among businesses already struggling to make a living with a reduced number of tourists. On Monday, Tenerife reported 434 new cases.
Right, from international stories across the globe now, let's move on to our next segment, which is Sports Track. Right, let's begin with the story from the Olympics, Tokyo Games. Union Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports Anurag Thakur on Monday felicitated the silver medalist of Tokyo 2020 Olympics in weightlifting, Mirabai Chanu, in New Delhi. Union Minister Kiran Rijiju, Union Minister Kishan Reddy and MOS Sports Nisit Pramanik also graced the occasion. Anurag Thakur said that despite COVID-19 pandemic, government continued to extend end-to-end support to the players. The Sports Minister also said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's decision to set up National Sports University in Manipur is a big development for people of Northeast region, and he also talked about the Target Olympic Podium Scheme.
टॉप स्कीम के अलावा भी जिसके ऊपर करोड़ों रुपए एलीट एथलीट्स के लिए खर्च किए जाते हैं, आउट ऑफ पॉकेट एक्सपेंसेस दिए जाते हैं, बेस्ट कोचेस की सुविधा दी जाती है, ट्रेनिंग दी जाती है। लेकिन उसके साथ साथ किरण जी, आपने मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में यहां पर व्यवस्थाओं में सुधार किया, जो फूड की क्वालिटी और ट्रेनिंग उसमें सुधार किया, और इसके साथ साथ हमने माननीय मोदी जी ने जो सबसे बड़ी बात 906 करोड़ रुपए की लागत से नेशनल स्पोर्ट्स यूनिवर्सिटी बनाने का निर्णय जो मणिपुर के लिया है, वो भी एक बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि हमारे पूर्व नॉर्थ ईस्ट के क्षेत्र के लिए है।
Union Minister for Law and Justice Kiran Rijiju expressed happiness over Mirabai Chanu's victory and hope that her victory will encourage other athletes to do well in the games ahead.
हमारे लिए बहुत खुशी की बात है कि पहले दिन में मेडल ला करके जो एक ओलंपिक में एक जर्नी होता है 15 दिन का, उस जर्नी का शुरुआत बहुत अच्छी तरह से मीराबाई और आपके कोच ने किया है। हम लोग बहुत खुश थे, बहुत ही सेलिब्रेट किए हैं, और अभी 3 दिन से हम लोग तो सेलिब्रेशन मूड में ही है। आने वाले दिन में हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि आपका प्रभाव बाकी खिलाड़ियों को भी पड़ेगा और उसका अच्छा नतीजा आएगा।
Also, Union Minister Sarbanand Sonowal, while congratulating Mirabai Chanu and her coach Vijay Sharma, said that through hard work and dedication, they have brought glory to the country and every Indian is feeling proud of their achievements.
मैं मीराबाई चानू को हृदय से अभिनंदन देता हूं, साथ में कोच विजय जी को भी। आप लोगों ने मेहनत करके आज देश का नाम रोशन किया है। खेल जगत का सबसे बड़े मंच से आज आपने जो सफलता प्राप्त किया है, इसकी वजह से आज देश की हर व्यक्ति गौरव महसूस कर रहा है। तो इसलिए ये यात्रा आप ऐसे ही बरकरार रखें, यही मेरी उम्मीद है।
Olympic silver medalist Mirabai Chanu thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Union Sports Minister for providing her all kind of support. She dedicated the medal to people of the country.
प्राइम मिनिस्टर जी एंड स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्टर जी दोनों को मैं थैंक यू बोलना चाहती हूँ। उन्होंने मुझे बहुत कम समय में यूएसए में ट्रेनिंग के लिए भेजा था। बहुत कम, एक दिन में पूरा सब कुछ अरेंज करके मुझे यूएसए के लिए भेजा था ताकि मुझे ट्रेनिंग अच्छा करे ओलंपिक में मेडल आने के लिए। तो बहुत ही सपोर्ट रहा मुझे, ट्रेनिंग अच्छा हुआ और उनकी वजह से, हमारी टॉप स्कीम की वजह से मैं आज ओलंपिक में पहला दिन सिल्वर मेडल जीत पाई हूँ। तो मैं इसको पूरा भारतवासियों की डेडिकेट करना चाहती हूँ। मैं पूरा भारत में जो भी खिलाड़ी और मेरे लिए उन्होंने प्रे किया है, प्यार दिया है, तो उन सब के लिए मैं ये डेडिकेट करना चाहती हूँ।
And earlier on her return to India yesterday after a sensational show in the ongoing Tokyo Olympics, weightlifter Mirabai Chanu was given a rousing welcome at the international airport in New Delhi. Chanu ended India's 21-year wait for a weightlifting medal at the Olympics by clinching a silver medal in the 49 kg category to open the country's account on Saturday. We remember Karnam Maleshwari had won an Olympic bronze in the 2000 Sydney Olympics, only the 6th Indian to have won a silver medal in individual event in Olympics and second women to win silver medal in Olympics for India.
Alright, in today's action from Tokyo, Saurabh Chaudhary and Manu Bhaker failed to qualify for the medal matches in 10 meters air pistol mixed team event, which was making its games debut. Saurabh Chaudhary and Manu Bhaker raised hopes by finishing as the #1 pair at the end of the qualification stage 1 of the 10 meters air pistol mixed team event. Only 8 teams out of 20 from qualification stage 1 progressed to the stage 2. The pair finished 7th out of 8 shooters and failed to make it to the medal matches.
Right, my colleague Anil Thomas joins us to give us more information on this. Anil, good morning. First of all, if we talk about shooting, India had high hopes in shooting. First Manu Bhaker and then Saurabh Chaudhary bowed out in the individual events, and then in mixed team events also. First today Abhishek Verma and Yashwini Deswal, they bowed out, and then Manu Bhaker and Saurabh Chaudhary, again a big disappointment in shooting.
Well, exactly. You know, shooting has been one of the mainstays, considering the fact that we had 15 shooters in the fray, and it was expected that Indian shooters will come good in this particular summer games. But, you know, not off to a great start. But, you know, there are two things that one needs to consider. It's very difficult when you lose your individual shooting events to pick yourself up as a mixed team and come together and shoot for glory. I think Manu Bhaker still has that somewhere behind her head, especially that bad run that she had. And Saurabh Chaudhary, very similar to the one that he shot in his individual event, where he topped the qualifying stage, but then, you know, was eliminated as 7th in that final round. So very clearly a similar tale for Saurabh Chaudhary. But remember, these two young guns, you know, that are representing India have a big plus, you know, considering the fact they are playing their first Olympics. Manu is 17, Saurabh is 19, so they've got years and years ahead to go. Remember, yesterday there was a story about a 57-year-old Kuwaiti shooter who got his second medal. He had his first in Rio, his second coming here in Tokyo. So clearly, age is on their side. You know, they have not excelled in the first Olympics, but you got to give them time and patience. Yes, but surely a disappointment from the shooting ranges. We've got 4 more shooters in the range now in the 10-meter air rifle. We'll have to keep our fingers crossed. But, you know, picking yourself up after losing your individual events is very, very difficult, especially in shooting.
All right, disappointment there in the field of shooting, but at the same time, hockey fans and the rest of the country, they woke up to this pleasant news today of India defeating Spain in the qualifying match. So chances bright there for the hockey team. Would you say that, Anil?
Well, I would say, you know, I'm happy that they bounced back, keeping a clean sheet, because that's what mattered, you know, considering the fact that they were thrashed 1-7 in that game against Australia. To bounce back, you know, with a win would have, you know, is always something good. But then to keep a clean sheet is keeping a clean sheet is something that I felt happy about, you know, because if you have been thrashed so badly, to pick yourself and then to, you know, get together as a team and, you know, try and go back to the drawing board and work out those mistakes that you made and come back strongly with a 3-0 scoreline against Spain clearly is a good sign for Indian hockey. But they still got Argentina and Japan to overcome. If they win the next 2 games, they stand a good chance of reaching the semi-finals. But Indian hockey has always had its share of surprises, especially at the big stage. So it's surely a good sign for today. But I'll keep my fingers crossed when I look at the Indian hockey team when they perform at the biggest stage.
All right, you're keeping your fingers crossed, Anil. Very quickly, what action is to be expected today in the Tokyo Olympics?
Well, we got in the 10-meter air rifle, we've got all our 4 shooters there in the fray. So there are 2 medal hopes there. We'll keep we'll have to look at them coming good because they also are young shooters. Remember, we've got young contingent here in the shooting discipline. So that's a big ask. You can either perform, you can either excel at the big stage or you can crumble under pressure. And I think the shooters are feeling the heat. There is a lot of anticipation from them. Remember, they drew a blank in Rio. So there is anticipation there is expectations from them. And, Mirabai set the tone first day, silver medal. So everyone is expecting the shooters to come good. And I think the shooters are feeling the heat. Once they could settle down, and, it's not easy for shooting to settle down because shooting starts off on day 1 of the Olympics games. So by the time you realize the mistakes that you made, the discipline is almost over. So 4 shooters in the fray. In badminton, you've got the mixed doubles there, trying to make a match of it and survive and look for the next round. So clearly these 2 things that, the big thing or the big ticket things that you would look forward to, especially from an Indian perspective. There are many other events where India is participating, but the 2 big things that India would be looking to, especially from shooting, the 4 shooters, even if 2 come good, we are looking at a bronze medal finish.
Absolutely. A lot of events coming up today and high hopes, like Anil said, in shooting. 11 is taking part in mixed team 10-meter air rifle. Thank you, Anil. Thank you for giving us your vital inputs.
All right, after that, we get you weather across the country. We get you major temperatures across major cities of the country.
Right, this was the temperature across major cities, and it's time for a wrap. But before we go, it's a reminder to wear a face mask before you step out of your house. And if you are eligible to be vaccinated, go and get yourself inoculated. It's very, very important.
Yes, keep following COVID appropriate behavior. Let's not put our guards down. The fight against the pandemic is still on. Every day we leave you with good visuals, and today we tell you how Olympic silver medalist and Indian weightlifter Mirabai Chanu has been inspiring people of all age groups across the world. Since her victory at Tokyo Olympics 2020, her fan following has increased multifold. The athlete has shared an adorable video of a young girl lifting weight and performing all the acts that Chanu did during the competition last week. Enjoy this video. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye.